For years, people have been trying to debate which video games are the most realistic, which games can immerse you into their worlds the most, and which games transfer our world to theirs the best. And today, I'm here to tell you that that game is Mario Brothers. For those wondering, today we are going to be analyzing the physics of different video games. Just fun. And definitely the type of content I make on this channel. Before we start, we do need to make some rules so we could ground this whole process. First of all, this is more of an analysis video than an experiment, because we are going to be comparing which games are more realistic to our world, but that's about all. There's no experimental process with it. Second thing is how we're going to be doing this. Main thing is objects in games are pretty hard to relate to our world, so I'm going to be going off of strictly online measurements unless there is a measurement system within the game. With all that being said, let's take a journey through the big three games throughout time, with the first one being Super Mario Bros. Was released for the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1985 in an attempt to revive the video game industry after the disaster that Atari left behind, especially after their E.T. game. Mario introduced the world to 8-bit gaming, and with it, more movement and physics in their games. Speaking of, there's not a lot of measurement to go off of here, honestly, which does make this pretty hard to figure out. The whole game takes place in the Mushroom Kingdom, which is just an alternate version of Earth, which should make it easy. However, there's floating bricks, floating coins, and fire that seemingly has no air resistance. Still though, other than those few singularities, this world does act mostly as ours. First off is movement. This was a lot simpler to figure out than I originally thought it was going to be, but it is a pretty lengthy process. You see, Mario is 5'1" when he's in super form, and with the Breck being exactly half of his height, which would make the dimensions of it simply 2 feet and 6.5 inches by 2 feet and 6.5 inches. I'm working in meters, however, so that means that every brick is roughly 0.75 meters, which would mean every 1.25 bricks is a meter. With all that information, I went through, played the game, and after a few trials, I found that Mario walks at a pace of 4.28 meters per second and runs at a pace of 7.58 meters per second, which is extremely fast. For reference, the average human runs at a speed of roughly 3 meters per second. For me, it was 3.22 meters per second. So Mario is essentially doubling or tripling the speed of a human, which is insane to think about. That's only half of the story though, as we still need to worry about some other stuff to relate the world. For some reason, there's no friction in this world. Whenever you shoot a fireball, or Bowser shoots his fire, or an enemy throws a hammer, there's no friction preventing any of that stuff happening. For slowing down or anything, the only time it does stop is if it collides with another object, which is just impossible to think about. You can't relate that to our world. But because of that, I'm just going to tick a little box that says there is no friction. Obviously, these are all video games, so there are going to be a couple of just super silly singularities that we cannot relate to our world for very obvious reasons. That's not going to stop me with this, though. With all that said and done, though, we can move on to our next generation of gaming with Halo Combat Evolved came out in 2001 for the original Xbox consoles, instantly becoming a classic both for its innovating gameplay and unique online setting.
So yeah, you're gay.
However, nowadays, while the series is still popular, it's long from its glory days, unfortunately. But it doesn't mean we don't have any physics to figure out here. Obviously, we're going to start with movement, which, as always, is realistically going to be the hardest part to figure out. And to get accurate measurements, I again related it to the height of Master Chief, the guy that you play as. And he is a whopping 7 feet tall. Obviously, it's okay, we're able to figure out the dimensions of a simple wall texture in the opening cutscene. And with it, I ended up doing some calculations and figured out that it's only 1 meter wide, which makes all of this super easy to figure out. And at the end of the day, Master Chief walks at a pace of 3.98 meters per second. Or runs. There's no sprint button in Halo Combat Evolved, so there's no way of accurately figuring out this. For this series' extra physics, I wanted to do something with the guns. Halo is a shooter game after all. So I decided to compare the plasma rifle to a modern day AK-47.
I don't own a AK-47 for obvious reasons, so all my measurements for this were found online.
The AK-47 fires at a rate of 715 meters per second, while the plasma rifle is only 126 meters per second. I went in and I predicted that the AK would be faster, but I didn't expect it to be nearly 7 times faster. Well, now that we figured out physics based off of 2 big games, we are currently heading into the last generation, with my favorite game, Spider-Man 2, one of the biggest games of the current generation for PS5, and the only game with an actual measurement system on this list, which makes all of this work a hell of a lot easier with me. With an in-game measurement tool, we easily found out that Spider-Man could walk at a pace of 1.2 meters per second and run at a speed of 8.33 meters per second. That's not the fun part though. Since it's Spider-Man, I was curious about how fast web slinging was. I set up a mini course for myself and found Spider-Man could travel at a speed of 34.35 meters per second when swinging. Also, when swinging, Spider-Man is being held by a force of roughly 974.83 newtons. That's roughly 100 kilograms or 220 pounds of force that is being held. So yeah, at the end of the day, all these video games relate to everything in some different way. For Mario, he's walking at a way faster speed than the average human and running at, again, nearly triple. For Halo, Master Chief is probably walking faster than the average run speed, which made the only realistic one Spider-Man. He was walking at a generally average pace. For me, I walk at roughly 1.5 meters per second, which means that I am technically faster than Spider-Man in that aspect. Until it gets to running and then he goes again triple my speed. On top of that, there's the extra physics thing. Mario doesn't have friction in his world for most objects. Halo's guns shoot way slower than ours, but again, when you're getting at nearly the 50 meter per second mark on a gun, you're going fast enough that you're going to be doing damage to a person, no matter what. And for Spider-Man, when it comes to his swinging, it's actually impressive to see that it's something that could be realistically happening in real life. Not the whole spider stuff, but with these calculations, we could take it into the real world maybe one day and find how people could be swinging from one place to another with, I don't know, an advanced grappling hook. I'm not an engineer, and these are just fantasies at the end of the day. But it was a lot of fun to go through every single game and figure out just what's going on with the physics behind them all. This was a lot of fun to experiment with and just have fun. I got to go through and relive and replay a lot of my most favorite games and figure out some of the logistics behind them. And without further ado, my most realistic game on this list is Mario. I don't care if it doesn't have friction, and I don't care if he's faster than everybody. Mario is going to be the most realistic in my heart, and Mario is life. Okay, goodbye.